Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Woo Curious podcast. Your map to the mystical, your key to the sacred, and your guide back home to yourself. I'm Eileen, a writer, a spiritual coach, energy healer, and slow living witch. This podcast is your invitation to explore a world where the mundane and the sacred intertwine. It's a haven for those ready to take the first steps into the realms of magic and mystery, providing a safe space for you to embark on your own enchanted journey towards healing and self-discovery. Here, I'll unveil the whispers of the mystical, the rituals often hidden in plain sight, and I'll engage in sacred conversation intended to stir your soul and lead you back into your power. I'm all about demystifying woo and witchcraft. So, whether you're a seasoned seeker or simply woo curious, I'm so delighted you've decided to join me on this journey. Let's make magic. Hello, Woo Crew, and welcome back to another episode of the Woo Curious podcast. I'm your host, Eileen, and I have a solo episode for you today. I'm actually sitting down to record this episode a second time for a couple of reasons. The first reason being that I forgot to check which microphone my recording software was pulling from when I recorded this episode yesterday, and it was using my laptop microphone, which is fine, but the quality is significantly lower. There's background noise, there's that tinny sound. And when I tried to use my editing software to create studio sound, my voice ended up really clipped and funny sounding. So that's one of the reasons. But I would have run with it and probably just inserted a little apology for the quality. But as I was editing, I was really having to heavily edit my own speaking, my voice. I was stumbling over my words. I was repeating the same word like 18 times in a row. I was really not present, I think, is what was happening. Even the very beginning, I started to try to talk about how excited I was that the new moon is falling right near the solstice. And I'm going to talk about that now. And I didn't get there. I got totally sidetracked. And so this episode may not be very long because it's Saturday morning and I don't know how much of what I rambled on about was really important. And so we'll see where we go. I was sharing about the history of the winter solstice. I was sharing about the history of the word Yule and some of our traditions. And what I realized when I was going back through and listening is that I shared a lot about the traditions, where they came from, the word Yule, how it's a Norse word that we now associate with this time of year. Yuletide has been very much widely adopted and has been for centuries and centuries. But I shared a lot about that last year. And so if you're wanting that part of the history, maybe over this time period of winter solstice, you pop back to December last year and listen to that episode and get a little bit more of the history, of the details. Because today what's really calling me is more about the energetics of winter solstice, of Yuletide, of this really beautiful, magical time of year. If you're listening to this the week it comes out on Monday, it's December 15th, and the solstice greets us on the 21st, so on the Sunday after this episode airs. Maybe you're listening to this on the Monday after solstice. Or maybe you're listening to it in the middle of summer. I know that a lot of people find a new podcast and just start at the beginning and work their way through. So wherever this podcast episode is finding you in the year, I trust that it's finding you where you need it. I have begun to really cherish this time of year in a way that I never did when I was in my 20s and 30s. I've always loved Christmas. If you've listened to this podcast for a while, you'll know that I'm a Christmas girly. I really enjoy the energies of this time, the gathering with friends. I love buying gifts for people. I love eating good food. I love the Christmas lights. I love all of it. And as you'll know, if you've been here for any length of time, I wasn't raised with religion. So it's not the Christ part of Christmas that I love. That has no bearing on it for me. And the consumerist part certainly has played a big role in my childhood, but it's not what I really remember as the magic. The magic has always been in the moments with people, the permission to laze and lay on the couch for days at a time during those liminal days between Christmas and the New Year. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those magical days today as well in a bit of a new context, but this time of year is one that I'm really fond of. And in the past couple of, decades, past 2 decades, somewhere along the way through adulthood, this time of year also began to feel really busy and overwhelming and rushed and hectic, and the magic disappeared. And so for me, the wheel of the year and the teachings and the learnings around this time and the energies of this time have been a really beautiful guide for me back to the magic of the season. And that's really what Restmas has been about this year. If you're part of that, you'll know that it's about discovering the moments of stillness, but also the moments of magic that exist in the season all around us. And so winter solstice is the shortest day and the longest night of the year. This, in the wheel of the year, it's one of the solar events. So the solstices and the equinoxes are solar events. They are ancient in terms of how long they've been acknowledged, celebrated, marked by our ancestors. We look at sites like Newgrange in Ireland, which is over 5,000 years old. And for 3 days around solstice, the day before, the day of, the day after, for approximately 17 minutes at sunrise, the light is in the exact right orientation to flow in down this long channel. I didn't actually double check how long, but it's this long passageway into the tomb, into the womb tomb of this Newgrange site, and illuminate the back wall of the cave where there are ancient carvings. And so we know that whatever name these times had, whether they even had a specific name, we have Yule from the Norse people, from those parts of Europe, and certainly those traditions are many of the ones we use for Christmas these days. These traditions spread, the Vikings went all over, so a lot of these traditions are quite ubiquitous across Europe at least. But we know that for thousands of years, our ancestors have marked this moment as important. And it makes so much sense, right? It is the heart of winter. It is midwinter. It is the turning point, the tipping point where after solstice, the light begins to grow again. It's hope in the darkness. And of all of the Wheel of the Year celebrations, winter solstice is the one that I really love to sit in private ceremony with myself as well. I, of course, will be offering the Wheel of the Year ceremony for Yule, for winter solstice. It's happening on the 18th. If you haven't yet signed up, if you're listening to this before December 18th, 2025, you still have time to join us for that really lovely ceremony. It's hybrid. You can come online, you can come in person if you're in Calgary, and sit in sisterhood. I'll lead us through the energetics of the year. I'll share a little bit more that I'm going to share today about the history, the significance, the mythology, the origins of some of the traditions. And then I'll lead us through the energies of the 4 directions and some really juicy journaling prompts to get us to dig into what we're releasing, reflecting back on our wins, our losses, the year gone by, and setting those beautiful seeds of intention to be fertilized by the rising of the sun as we move forward, the rebirth of the sun as we move forward into the next turn of the wheel. And also on solstice itself, which is the 21st this year, it's the Sunday, which feels juicy in and of itself. I always like to turn off all the lights, sit in the dark with a fireplace lit and some candles going, and drop into my own reflective practices. I'm also practicing this year for the first time, because I've just actually learned about it, the 13 magical nights. And I believe that I shared about this a few episodes ago. I'm going to make sure I link in the comments a blog post that I wrote about it in case I didn't, or you don't want to go back and you're new listener. But basically, this practice is one where between Samhain and the solstice, the winter solstice, we write down our wishes, our dreams, our desires, 13 things we're manifesting or calling in for the next turn of the wheel that we desire to bring into being in the next year after solstice. And then beginning on solstice night, we take these pieces, individual pieces of paper, we've folded them up, we've written them in present tense, as in we already have them in the writing, and we pull these pieces of paper one each night without unfolding them, and we burn them either in a candle, in your fireplace if you have one, and we release that energy to the universe, to creator, to source, to God, goddess, Mother Earth, however you want to conceptualize the more than that helps to guide us. And the idea here is that on the 13th night, so for 12 nights, we burn these. We say we're calling them in. We're setting that intention to be open to receive, which is a huge part of manifestation. And we're giving it up into the hands of the more, of the creator, of the universe, of God, goddess. But on the 13th night, so this will fall about January 6th, typically. And on the 13th night, we open the last piece of paper. And that one's ours to action. So I'm doing this practice this year. I still have a few more dreams, desires to call in, to write down. If you're listening to this before the 21st, you could sit down and write them all in one go, right? Drop into a little bit of a meditation, check in with yourself, and you could begin this practice on the 21st. And so that's going to be part of my own private, personal honoring ceremony, marking the moment of winter solstice and celebrating the return of the light. I really love that the energetics this year are lined right up new beginning wise, because not only do we have winter solstice, which is in, cyclical energies. If we think about it, it's new moon energy, and it's winter energy, obviously, and it's crone energy in our body life cycles, and it's bleeding energy if you're in a female body that bleeds. But that new moon energy, right, that new beginning, the deepest dark that we're sitting in, it's amplified this year because the new moon itself, this new moon in December, is falling on the 19th, so just 2 nights before the solstice. So by solstice night, there will be the barest crescent of moon visible in the sky, but really the sky will be very dark. And so if you're lucky enough to live somewhere where the night sky is not polluted by lights, by city lights, it's going to be a dark night, which is delicious in my humble opinion. And so there is this double new moon energy happening at this time of year. Speaking of the new moon, if you're listening to this before Tuesday, the 16th, you are invited to come and join me for a new moon rest circle. So I've got 2 things going on this week. We've got the new moon rest circle on Tuesday. We've got the solstice ceremony on Thursday. I have several people who are coming to both. I would love if you would join us for one or both of these events. We'll call them events. The new moon rest circle is so potent. So this is a piece of my Wise Wild Woman mentorship program. It's my year-long seasonal cyclical living program to connect back in with the wise wild woman that lives inside of you, to connect back with your ancestry, to heal wounds, to move a different way in the world. And the New Moon Rest Circle is something that we do inside of that mentorship every month. I have not before opened this new moon circle up beyond that mentorship. So this is the first time that I'm inviting people from outside the mentorship to come in and join us in the deep restorative rest of this circle. And the feedback that I've been getting, I'm so excited to be offering this beyond the mentorship program, because the women in the mentorship program have been sharing the impact that these circles have had on them, the way that they feel. And I am blown away, honestly, by the way that they've been describing the experience. It is potent rest. I drop us in to this guided rest space with music, with my voice. I channel these rest practices intuitively. I don't come pre-prepared for them. They are coming through me. And I infuse them all with energy healing medicine for the people present. So if you feel like you could use some really deeply restorative rest this season, please sign up. And if you can't make the time live, there will be a replay. And the women who are signing up to receive the replay, I've just been really encouraging them to schedule into their calendar as a non-negotiable when they're going to drop into the replay. It's interesting thinking about scheduling rest. And it's the perfect time of year to do it, because this season asks us to slow down. And at the same time, our society tells us to keep on at the pace we've been going the whole year. And as women, that pace actually often increases in December. We have all of the parties to plan, to attend. We've got the kids' pageants and things going on at school. We've got bake sales. We have to bake cookies all of a sudden. We're buying gifts for everyone. If you're anything like the women in my family, you're responsible for coming up with the gifts for your partner to buy your family and your family to buy your partner. And, more than just the people you are buying gifts for. And so there's a lot going on in a season that's begging us to embrace the darker moments, the quieter, longer nights, the stillness of those dark mornings. And so that's what this invitation of rest is. And, we easily flake out on ourselves. And there's a reason why you go to a yoga class instead of practicing yoga at home. And this won't be for everyone, but I have a really great yoga app. I got it when my yoga studio closed down during COVID. And I practiced for a while initially because COVID meant that I needed something to move my body. But ask me how often I've done yoga in the last year. It's 0 times. On the other side, ask me how often I go to the gym, where I have a membership monthly to have 2 classes a week with a small group and a trainer. I go twice a week, or I go 3 times a week, and then I have weeks off where I'm traveling or whatever. So just that reminder, it feels silly to say, I'm going to sign up for a class to rest. And I would challenge you to take an hour to put music on and lay down and rest without having signed up for a class to do so. Even I'm like, that's not going to happen for myself. So, okay, I didn't mean to wax quite so poetic about that, but just thinking, whether or not you're listening to this in time, even to sign up for this class, or it's something you even consider wanting to do, there's no pressure ever. But even thinking about, okay, what is so deeply uncomfortable about taking an hour to lie down and listen to music and rest? And maybe the winter solstice night, maybe Sunday night, if you've got kiddos, after they've gone to bed, maybe you tell your partner, if you have one, that you would like a little bit of time and space. Maybe you drop into ceremony with them. And maybe part of your honoring of this moment of darkness is to rest. You put on an album you like and just lay down and enjoy it. Or lay down in meditation, or you go to bed an hour earlier. Anything like that honors this energy, the energetics of the winter. The winter solstice is also where the Cailleach reaches the height of her power. And we've talked about the Cailleach here a few times. many times. I really love her energies. We talked about her a lot at Samhain, and she is reaching the apex of her potency during these long dark months. She is laying her mantle over the ground and bringing the snows. You know, she is that blue-faced hag of winter, and she's powerful. She's a weather deity. She's a sovereignty deity. She's so powerful. So walking with those energies as we move through the winter season as well, and just allowing ourselves to soften, to be still, to rest more, and to celebrate, right? To celebrate that the long dark is about to turn and light is going to begin seeping back into our lives. And so I think it's such a beautiful time to celebrate with candlelight and firelight and the lights on the trees. Like, right, these are the reasons that we have lights that we decorate our homes with. And at this time of year, it's that promise of light to return, of hope, the hope of light coming back. It's also why we bring evergreens into our homes. It's that reminder that there will be life again, that growth, that spring is coming, that there's green things and we're calling in that greenery. So I hope that you get a chance to enjoy and honor this moment, this solstice, this seed setting, this deep, juicy darkness of the middle of winter in a way that feels nourishing to you. I'm going to wrap this up right there. Oh, but first, if you're listening to this before the 21st and you haven't yet joined us for Restmas, it's free. It's tiny little invitations, tiny practices that you can use to weave through your days to bring some of this stillness and magic in. And it's not too late to sign up. As of recording this, I've had a few people this week tell me that they've just begun, and others that are saying they're on, day 3 or day 4 at this point. There are some who've journeyed right from December 1st. But the beauty of these practices is they don't have to be tied to a specific day. You can weave, rest, and find magic, create magic and ritual and connection to self into your days as we move towards the light. It would be just as nourishing to begin this practice on the 21st. And so if you haven't yet signed up, I would encourage you to do so. The link, as always, will be below in the show notes, along with a link to join us for that new moon rest circle, for ceremony, for the wheel of the year, for Yule, for winter solstice, and the link to that blog that I mentioned about the 13 magical nights. Okay, Woo Crew, I'm going to wrap it there. That feels really good. I'm so glad I came back in and re-recorded. This feels much better. And if you're looking for more of the history, the traditions, where that word Yule comes from, why we burn a log, all of those things, you can either come join me in ceremony on Thursday, the 18th, or you can pop back to last year and listen to the episode that I recorded then to get a little bit of a taste of what that ceremony is going to include in terms of information. As always, if you like this episode, please leave a rating, a review. It helps ever so much. The algorithm loves a rating and a review. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, and as always, share this with a friend. Okay, I'll talk to you again this time next week. Bye for now.